Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for all things giallo here on The King in Giallo. I'm going to do another unscripted talking head movie review. And no, this is not quite a giallo, but doesn't mean we can't talk about it. Heads up, though, I'm really sorry, but this movie is owned by Universal, so that means I really can't throw too many clips in. I can try, but it's mostly going to be my face. Hope you don't mind, but that's just the reality. But hey, I hope you like my shirt. This is another one I got from Cavity Colors. Really cool stuff. A lot of horror movie attire, some Godzilla stuff, some giallo stuff, Dario Argento stuff. But anyways, let's move right on to why you clicked on this video. First off, if you are new here to this channel, I talk about giallo films. If you aren't too familiar with what a giallo film is, it's kind of hard to explain really in brief, but it's essentially a genre of film that came out in the 60s, peaked in the 70s, and then kind of petered out in the 80s and the 90s. Very influential on a lot of modern genres. It is essentially Italian mystery movies, Italian whodunits. Some would say they're like mystery slashers, but it just goes way deeper than that. But yes, very much inspired by Agatha Christie, Alfred Hitchcock, Edgar Allan Poe, Edgar Wallace. I've got a whole video going on the history. Like I said, it's really hard to kind of explain in 30 seconds. So I'm not going to try right now, but welcome if you are new to this channel. I'm going to be talking about Psycho 2, directed by Richard Franklin, written by Tom Holland. This came out in 1983. So earlier today, this video will probably have come out days before this one would, but I talked about Frenzy, the 1972 Alfred Hitchcock movie, which was kind of him a little inspired by giallo films and how violent they were, how sexual they were, and he was like, okay, I can do that. I already kind of talked about it. That movie is not really a giallo. I wouldn't put it in a list of giallos, but if we are talking about more modern, more mainstream movies and directors, it's definitely worth checking out. Psycho 2 kind of falls into that same category where no, it is not. It's not part of that genre, but if you start watching most of these movies and you're a completionist and you're kind of running out of movies to watch, or you're watching the movies that are very fringe, the giallo adjacent movies like Cruising, Alice Sweet Alice, basically anything by Brian De Palma. So, Body Double, Dress to Kill, Raising Cain. Yeah, all these other movies, Blowout. God damn it. By the way, Blowout, The Conversation are all like kind of the same concept. They're all very giallo adjacent. But yes, so Psycho 2. Let's talk about this movie. Great movie. This is what's really cool about this is it's one of those movies where the original film did not need a sequel. This is something you get with a lot of slashers slashers, maybe it's more excusable, but there's a lot of movies that don't need to be franchised. They don't need to have sequels, but if there's money to be made, studios are going to milk that cow for all it's worth. So Psycho 2, interesting because the sequel comes out 23 years later, and so it's set 22 years later. But that right there, it's not like these movies came out immediately after it, but Psycho 2 did come out during the slasher craze. So perhaps Universal was looking to kind of capitalize on these movies that were raking in a lot of money and not costing a lot. Another thing that this movie has in common with Frenzy is they're both Universal and they have that Universal look. Alfred Hitchcock did Frenzy. He did the original Psycho. So more similarities there. Anyways, so this movie is, what's his name? I almost said Anthony Perkins. Well, yes, but Norman Bates gets out of jail, which right there is already like, okay, we're talking about some serious suspension of disbelief, because I can't really think that Norman Bates would ever be released. I understand if you're going for the whole insanity plea. Okay, well, he wasn't all there. Okay, well, that's still not really a person that you should nominate for let's see if we can release them back into society. But, you know, I guess stranger things have happened. But he gets out, and so let me just say this. This movie, this is a weird comparison, but like Hellraiser 2, the movie starts with just like, hey, remember this part from the previous movie? It opens with the shower murder, and then it goes to show Norman Bates as a child, and I guess when he was 12 years old, he tried to poison his mother, and that didn't really work out too well. But anyways, that is a big part of the guilt that he lives with, and probably had a lot to do with the breakdown of his character in the original film. So in this one, he's released. He's brought back to the Bates Motel where he used to live, that he owned, and he gets a job. He was kind of set up with a job at this local diner. And when he's there, you know, meets the staff. There's this girl, Mary, who he befriends. And by the way, nearly every scene in the first act, she is on the phone. I think she's on the phone at least 5 or 6 times just in the first act. And I started losing count as I was rewatching this movie. Like, I was like, damn, I was going to try and count how many times she was on the phone, but it's probably close to 10 times. But anyways, she's like, my boyfriend kicked me out. I don't have a place to stay. And I'm just going to walk back into town and see if I can find a place. And Bates is like, well, I mean, I have a motel. You can stay in one of the rooms free of charge. And she's like, no, that's just kind of weird. And he's like, seriously, it's not a problem. So she goes over, stayed at his place. He finds out that the manager, I think his name is Toombs, who's been running the place, has been kind of turning it into a place where young adults and other adults will just come to get a room, have sex, and leave. And I guess, you know, that business model works out fairly well because the rooms are more readily available. They only need to rent them out for a few hours. But Norman Bates is not like this at all. He doesn't like that he's turning it into I think they're called an adult motel. And so he fires him. He goes to clear out one of the rooms to make sure it's ready for Mary to stay in. And he finds drugs. And I thought this was really funny. He finds a bottle of Rush, which I did not know that brand has been around since the 80s, but I learned that. I learned something new today. But yeah, he finds a bottle of Rush, which is poppers. And hey, this movie has ties to cruising too. Anyways, so he calls the manager out and he fires him on the spot. He's like, get your shit and go. No more renting rooms tonight. I want you gone. If you're not going to leave, I will call the police. Essentially, this guy starts harassing him. Comes into his work the next day, drunk, and he's just calling Norman Bates names, calling him out for being a psychopath, for, you know, killing all of his tenants. And then he starts harassing Mary. He's like, yeah, so how good was he last night? Yeah, I just want to know what it's like sleeping with a psycho. And eventually there's a confrontation in the restaurant. Bates comes out to defend the honor of this young girl, this young woman, and Toombs is like, notices that there's a knife, and he's like, yeah, go ahead, go grab it, come on, psycho. And he just backs up into the kitchen, and they take him out. You know, he leaves. A little bit of plot stuff, but so what's really going on in this movie is he's helping this girl, Mary, but at the same time he's not sure if he's going crazy again, because there's on the what do you call this thing, the ticket system, where you put in an order, put it up, and then you spin around, you pull them off, call the orders out. One of the notes, one of the tickets says, don't let that whore back into my house, Mom. And he assumes it must be Toombs. He's trying to harass me. And then he finds another note in the house. I think it's in the house, but it's the same type of thing. Like, don't let that slut back into my house, Norman. And he starts getting phone calls, I believe. He thinks there's a presence in the house. He thinks like not a physical presence. He thinks there's either a ghostly presence, or he thinks it's his mom. Is he hearing things? Is he seeing things? And then murders start happening again. They earlier in the movie had dropped this little bit of information that the manager says that he caught people in the fruit cellar fooling around. And so Toombs shows up one day harassing the motel, and then he gets stabbed. He gets killed by someone who's donning the same attire as Norman Bates was donning when he was dressing up as his mom and killing people in Psycho. Spoiler alert if you've never seen Psycho. Hopefully you have, because that's one of the greatest reveals in cinema. And so, okay, so immediately you're like, okay, either Norman Bates has snapped again and he's killing people, or somebody else is doing this and they're trying to drive Norman Bates crazy, or they're trying to get him sent back to jail. And earlier in the movie, like the second scene, I believe, second or third scene before he is let out, is a court scene where we find out that he is being released. And some people are like, that's a bad idea, you cannot do that. And this is the woman from Psycho, the sister of Lila. Lila was the woman's name, and it's the same actress. It's Vera Miles playing her, which is interesting because it's like, wow, legacy characters, that's pretty cool. But she's adamant she does not want Norman Bates out. He killed my sister. He's a murderer. He's a cold-blooded killer. Okay, so we get a little bit of potential conspiracy. There's people with motives. We know that Norman Bates obviously is crazy. And so that's basically what's going on. I actually don't really need to tell you everything that happens in the movie. That's a good amount to go off of right there. Also, the people in the fruit cellar, they see someone, they hear a sound, they see someone going about in another part of the basement. The girl is like, I'm out of here. She goes to leave. She accidentally like shuffles and makes a sound. She's out on the ground looking down, waiting for her boyfriend to come out. Killer comes in, starts stabbing him. And there's a lot of, like Norman Bates was, earlier he was looking around the house and he got trapped in the closet and he got locked in. And when Mary finds him, he's like, I was locked in the closet. The attic. I was locked in the attic. I don't know what happened. And she's like, it wasn't locked when I found you. And as it goes on, now he starts thinking, I must have killed these people. And like the police show up, they're saying, the girl saw her boyfriend getting murdered in here, and Norm is already acting weird, like, well, what were they doing in the fruit cellar, huh? And I don't think they find anything. And then there's like blood's coming out of the toilet, coming out of the sink. They find a bloody bit of clothes that was stuffed down there. Yeah, you know what? I really honestly don't want to say too much, but what I will say in terms of giallo films is this movie does actually behave a lot like a giallo. It's still shot like an American film, especially an American film on the Universal backlot, but the plot reads like a 1960s giallo. The ones that were more psychological, more about, is this character going crazy? Is there a conspiracy of people trying to make me go crazy? It really feels a lot like Libido by Ernesto Gastaldi, and it also feels a little bit like Hatchet for the Honeymoon by Mario Bava, where this guy is a killer and he's clearly got these problems that's all stemming from his childhood and something traumatic that happened in his childhood. Did he witness a murder? Did he potentially commit a murder? So right there, like Hatchet for the Honeymoon and Libido together, I'm thinking it's kind of like Psycho 2 a little bit. There's obviously many, many differences, but in terms of tying Psycho 2 to this genre, it feels like that. And so if you are familiar with both of those films, if you've seen them as a giallo fan, you can probably go into Psycho seeing what I mean. And another thing that I find very interesting about Psycho is it kind of works on its own. It doesn't need to be like the original novel that it's based on could have theoretically not existed. And Psycho 2 could be the story about this man who is institutionalized and he comes out. It's very interesting that it works on that level, that you actually don't even really need to have seen Psycho to watch Psycho 2. Obviously you should, because it's a phenomenal film. It's one of Hitchcock's best. It's one of the most groundbreaking films of cinema in terms of what it did for the thriller genre, for the horror and slasher genre, but you can actually go into Psycho 2 not having seen that movie. Really cool, really cool. It does stand on its own 2 feet. And for the sake of the story and for tying it again to giallo films, it actually works really well for that. Because as far as I know, there's no giallo sequels. There's never been, I don't believe there's ever been a sequel. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think I am. Not like slashers where these things get franchised. But anyways, it's really interesting that it works on that level. And so, yes, I would say, no, this is not a giallo film. I'm not trying to convince you it is, but if you're a big fan of that genre, you should definitely check out Psycho 2, because I think there's a lot to enjoy. And there's also some great kills. I mean, a lot of the stabbing kills are kind of, it's like a super up close on like a knife stabbing something where you're like, okay, that's nothing really, but someone gets stabbed in the mouth, and it's so catches you off guard, because most of the kills have all been very tame, very good use of editing, so you don't really see anything. But that one just really comes out of nowhere, and it's pretty freaking brutal. So yeah, bravo. That was really good. What else can I say? There is a major change that this movie does do that I don't like. I'll say that. Yeah, I had to kind of think about it. And so this will be a spoiler for Psycho 2. But let me tie this into another great horror film, which I personally don't think needed to have sequels. I'm gonna get like crucified for this. Halloween. So the original concept tied to Halloween was, what if we do a horror film based, like, centered around Halloween, and we just do a different story every year? I think that's a great idea. The problem was they made a sequel. And so now that you made a sequel, you've completely shot yourself in the foot with doing that idea. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, they tried to get back on track and be like, no, let's just go back and do that. People didn't like it, not because it's a bad movie, but because it didn't have Michael Myers. And okay, so anyways, going back to like Halloween 2, I'm not really shy about this. I don't like the Halloween franchise. I really love the first film. I really like the third film. I'm not a fan of the sequels. Sure, Halloween 2 has some good stuff in it, but I don't like what they did to change the character. And I'm just generally, if you want to talk about slashers, I'm a Friday the 13th guy. I like Nightmare on Elm Street, but anyways, I'm getting off. So what do they do in Halloween 2 that changes the character? Well, in the first one, we don't know why Michael Myers has fixated on this random teenager, on this random girl, this random babysitter. All we know is that he has, and he kills all of her friends and targets her. It's the mystery element of that movie makes it interesting, makes this villain interesting. We don't know anything about him. Halloween 2, we get, oh, no. See, Laurie was his baby sister. And so now he's trying to finish the job. Some people might be like, whoa, they're related? That's so cool. Is it really cool? Is it really that cool? I don't think it is. Psycho 2 does a very similar thing. So here is the spoiler for Psycho 2. What we find out in the movie is that Norman Bates's mother was not actually his mother. She was his aunt. And you find out that this other woman working at the diner, the one who I think is the one who vouched for him to get hired, she's actually his mother. And she had to give up Norman because she was institutionalized. So her sister took care of Norman. And I won't spoil anything else for the movie, but I just wanted to say that because I don't like that. Now, again, I'm not going to spoil it, but this will kind of hint at some stuff that does tie into what's going on in Psycho 2, but I don't think we needed it. I really don't think we needed it. The movie was working well enough on its own. You also find out, another spoiler, you do find out that You do find out that Mary is the daughter of Lila. Is it Lila? God, I'm so bad at this. Lila. She's the daughter of Lila, and they have been trying to stage things to make Norman go crazy. Make him think, obviously his mom is dead, but make him think that he's slipping back into his mother persona and he's doing things. So they're the ones doing the notes. They're the ones making these phone calls. When he gets trapped in the attic and comes back to his mother's room, it's been completely like changed. They're doing all this stuff because they want Norman to snap and be reinstitutionalized. Well, Mary realizes that Norman Bates is a really nice guy. He's a really sweet guy. And so she doesn't feel comfortable going through with this anymore because, matter of fact, her mother is the one with the vendetta, not her. And so she tries to tell her mom, like, really, like, he's a good guy. He's rehabilitated into society. He's not a threat. You need to let this go. And, well, the movie goes on from there, but the police figure this out. They realize that these women are working together to try to make Norman go crazy. And obviously that's like, come on, that's you can't do that. That's illegal. And, so fine, I guess. Do I want to spoil this? I don't know if I really want to spoil the movie, but there's something I really want to talk about because I find it hysterical. And it's okay. I won't spoil every single thing, but I'm going to spoil the ending. So some stuff has happened. A lot of people have died. A lot of people have gotten startled and accidentally killed someone else. And it's basically, we get to a point where it's just Norman. And his mother, the woman from the diner, shows up to talk to him. She tells him this. She tells him, you know, what was going on, why. And she's sitting there at the dining room table, and he's kind of like walking behind her, like, you know, tidying things up in the kitchen, and she's telling him all this stuff. And he grabs a shovel, I think, and just hits her in the back of the head and kills her. And then he picks up her body and he carries it to his mother's room, and he starts talking like his mother. And the movie ends with he wasn't going crazy this whole time. And at one point he realized these women are fucking with him. And so he starts fucking with them. So Mary's already sympathetic to him, and then he'll be on the phone and be like, yes, mother. No, mother, I won't kill her. Mother. And then she's like, Norman, your mother's not real. And she takes the phone, like, hello, Norman, there's no one on the phone. Yes, mother. She's like, Norman, stop. So he's fucking with her. Anyways, that was all a ploy for him to try and turn the tables on them. But by the very end of the movie, and he's carrying this corpse to his mother's room, he starts talking like his mother again. And he puts her away, and the movie ends with him coming out, and, like, you know, the house is in the background, and he's standing on the what do you call it? The entryway, the stairs, the leading up to the front door. He's standing there, and he just kind of stands with his, like, hands on his hips. And the movie basically ends there, where it's like, okay, he's out, and the police think he's rehabilitated. They pinned all the murders on Lila and Mary. So, and we're assuming that he's going to get away with this one as well. They're just going to pin it on them if they even look into it. So the movie kind of ends with, he's back, baby, you know, and I have not seen Psycho 3 as of now. I might check it out. I might, but yeah, really interesting. It's a really good movie. Obviously it's no Psycho, but yeah, so that's like basically how it ends, is it kind of ends like that. Worth checking out. Yeah. Like I said, obviously it's no Psycho, but it's still a damn good movie, and it's a really good sequel. Does the movie need to exist? Oh man, you know, it's one of those things, like, Psycho could have just, I had not seen any of the sequels. So for me, it ends with him going to prison. It still ends that way for me. If you were to ask me about Norman Bates, I would say, well, you know, he's institutionalized. That's how it ends. And then I would bring up, well, they did do a couple sequels, and in the sequels he gets out, yada, yada, yada. But are they canon? It's really up to the fan. It's really up to the viewer. God. I do like this movie, but I don't want to say for my interpretation that it is canon. It also doesn't really matter. It's just my opinion. But I can enjoy these movies on their own and not think Psycho 2 is the canonical progression of it. Some other interesting things I'll point out. In the scene, which reminded me of Hatchet for the Honeymoon, where you see a young... God, I keep getting all my names mixed up. You see a young Norman Bates watching his mother as she's being poisoned, and she kind of like drops. You see her hand, you see that the door is like creaked open, and you see a hand drop. The actor playing a young Norman Bates is Oz Perkins, which is really cool. For those of you who don't know, the actor, writer, director Oz Perkins, who did The Monkey, Longlegs, Gretel and Hansel, the Blackcoat's Daughter. If you didn't know, he is the son of Anthony Perkins. I imagine most of you probably knew that. I did not know that until I went to see The Monkey, and the friend I went with was telling me that. Like, yeah, no, it's Anthony Perkins' son. I'm like, are you serious? Whoa! Okay, cool. I did not know that. But yeah, he's in the movie in a very brief cameo. So that's cool. Do I have anything else to say about this movie? I think that's about it. I think I'll wrap it up there. Sorry if I was not able to throw a lot of clips in. Like I said, there's just a few studios, particularly American studios, that are just way stricter about fair use and using clips. It is what it is. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on Psycho 2. Check it out if you haven't. So, have you seen Psycho 2? Did you even know there was a sequel? What are your thoughts? Are you interested in checking the movie out? Let me know. I love all that in the comments down below. If you want to complain about how you're looking at my face, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but that's what it is. That's what a talking head video is. Anyways, yeah, so this is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time. Thank you.